Hello, today we're going to show you how to connect a moisture sensor to our MCP 3008, which is connected to our Raspberry Pi. For directions on how to connect the analog to digital chip here to the Raspberry Pi, you can see our earlier video. Please note that the top of the chip right here is denoted by this divot and this little mark at the top. All of these connections to the Raspberry Pi over here, you'll notice that they're all on one side. This is the high side. These over here are pins 1 through 8, pins 9 through 16. So the high side pins over here go directly to the Raspberry. These pins 1 through 7 are designated for input channels. So pin 1 will be input channel 0. Pin 8 will be input channel 7. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at our moisture sensor here. You can see our website for a shopping list to see where you can buy these on Amazon. Any of these will work. There are several different types of these, but they basically all work on the same premise here. Voltage is sent from one prong through the ground to the other prong. The more drop in voltage between the positive and negative side, the less amount of conductivity, which means less moisture. So this is that's how they approximate how much moisture is in the soil, by reading the voltage drop from here to here. So these prongs, they'll connect to our reader chip here. It has 2 inputs here, and then it has 4 outputs. So you can see here we have AO for analog out, digital out, ground out, and VCC. Also in the middle we have a little potentiometer here, which you can adjust. That is for the digital out pin right here, the second pin. Depending on how far you turn this left or right, it sets a limit. Once the limit on the input goes past a certain amount, then the analog signal goes from high to low. So this is good for a simple level to detect when you've gone in and out. So the wiring from this side to this side obviously is going to be pretty simple here. So we just got to make sure we basically match up the colors. Just using 2 female to female connectors here. And then now we can go ahead and wire these out to the board. So let's go ahead and do that. Get a couple of female to male connectors here. Of course, Amazon's always a great place for small electronics goods, especially if you're a student or you have Amazon Prime. Pretty cheap shipping there on a $5 package of male to female connectors, and with Radio Shack out of business, it's hard to find these kind of parts at your local stores. So here we go. Now just remember at the bottom here, that's going to be your analog out. Your analog out is going to go directly to one of the input channels. So here we're going to be using pin 1, which is input channel 0. And we're not going to be using the digital out. If we did want to use the digital out, you could connect it directly to any of the pins or any of the input pins that are designated as input pins through the software. You can connect it. So if we marked pin 6 here, as an input pin, we can connect the digital signal here. Again, the digital signal is only used for telling when the moisture reading has passed a certain point, and that's governed by the potentiometer. So if you set the potentiometer to 500 and it goes to 600, it's going to go from low to high. And then it goes back below 500, it's going to go from low or high to low. But we're not going to be using the digital, so we're going to go ahead and just unplug it. And then, so that leaves us our ground here, green for ground. And we can use any of the various grounds here on the board. And this orange wire marked VCC, that's our voltage. A word about the voltage here. You can connect these sensors to either the 3.3 volt or the 5 volt. Specifications call for the 5 volt rail. They will work on 3.3 volts, but the reading output from the MCP 3008 seems to significantly drop. So instead of going from 0 to 1023, it goes from 0 to like in the 700 range. But either voltage will work. I recommend connecting it to the 5 volt rail. So that's what we're going to do here. Green to ground, which is blue on the breadboard there, and then our 5 volts. And there you go. That's it. So now we have our moisture sensor connected to our Raspberry Pi.